WADR, promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and 1 p.m. in Lagos. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink live on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world at WADR.org. First, our top stories. Senegalese Prime Minister Sonko addresses National Assembly on trending issues including homosexuality.
Any person who commits an unnatural act shall be punished by imprisonment for 5 to 10 years and a fine of 2 million to 10 million francs.
Liberian government dissolves paramilitary group over alleged threat to national security.
Today we got towns that have massacres all based on the fact that some group people from tribal militias and went around causing for nothing chaos.
Nigeria battles nationwide Lassa fever outbreaks as infections rise among health workers, and fire destroys more than 100 cotton plants in Burkina Faso, causing significant losses for producers. Please stay tuned for details of the stories and more.
On the news, this is a More Edit.
Many thanks for joining our broadcast. We'll begin here in Senegal as Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko is addressing the National Assembly today at a session dedicated to current affairs issues in the country. Central to the parliamentary debate is the issue of student grants and attention in the universities following the death of student Abdoulaye Ba during recent clashes with police at UCAD. The Prime Minister also spoke about the recent adoption of a bill criminalizing unnatural acts, including homosexuality. This issue comes amid recent events in which the Senegalese gendarmerie dismantled a network of homosexuals and arrested several individuals who were also involved in the transmission of HIV across the country. Here is an excerpt of Prime Minister Sonko's statement at the National Assembly.
Any person who commits an unnatural act shall be punished by imprisonment for 5 to 10 years and a fine of 2 million to 10 million francs. If the act is committed with a minor, the maximum penalty shall be imposed. Any sexual act or act of a sexual nature between two persons of the same sex constitutes an unnatural act. Any sexual act or act of a sexual nature between two persons of the same sex is also an unnatural act. Any person who, by any of the means, advocates an act referred to in line 3 of this article shall be punished by imprisonment for 3 to 7 years and a fine of 500,000 to 5 million francs. Any person who has financed or supported by any means whatsoever a person, group or activity that wishes to promote or glorify homosexuality, bisexuality, transsexuality, or zoophilia, necrophilia, or any other similar practice shall be punished by the penalties provided for in paragraph 5 of this article.
Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko speaking there in Parliament. In Liberia, the government has dissolved a group calling itself the National Fuller Security of Liberia, NFSL, following security concerns that emerged in recent weeks. The Minister of Justice announced the decision after determining that the group lacks the necessary legal authorization, including registration or licensing to operate as a security or paramilitary organization under Liberian law. This action comes amid public outcry sparked by live video and social media posts showing the group conducting training exercises and recruiting personnel. WDR's Born River correspondent Abraham Parker reports.
Many Liberians are expressing fears that the National Fuller Security of Liberia, perceived as a tribal militia, could pose a significant security threat to the nation. Calls have emerged for the government to disband the group and to ensure safety of all citizens and the stability of the country.
Let's stop things that will divide us as Liberians. We got enough healing to deal with. Today we got towns that have massacres all based on their tribe, on the fact that some group people from tribal militias and went around causing for nothing chaos.
While organizers claim the group was established in 2012 to protect Muslims during late-night Ramadan prayers, the Ministry of Justice says it has found no record of the organization's registration with relevant government agencies. However, a member of the National Legislature Representative Yeke Koloba is defending the group's existence.
I gave them the advice. You look for uniform, give it to the police, let them be identified for tomorrow's sake. When people having a Ramadan, people go to the mall, terrorize the people, take the poor food. Who's going to provide security for them? The poor security business is in the best interest to help the national security.
The Ministry of Justice warns that any continued recruitment or promotion by the NFSL will be considered a violation of national law, leading to criminal and administrative penalties. However, the Inspector General of the Liberia National Police, including the National Security Agency and the Minister of Justice, have been summoned by the House of Representatives to appear this Tuesday and provide further insight into the matter. For Newslink on WADR, Abraham Parker, Monrovia.
In Cote d'Ivoire, preparations are underway for the 5th edition of the Flintlock military exercise. Representatives from more than 30 nations, including the United States, Benin, Cameroon and Italy, are gathered in Abidjan to prepare for this military cooperation. Organized by the U.S. Africa Command, it is considered the largest annual gathering of special operations forces in Africa. Christopher Chicho gives us the details.
From February 23 to 26, Ivorian and American representatives, along with delegates from more than 30 African nations and partners, will finalize preparations for the 5th edition of the largest U.S. Special Forces military exercise in Africa. The exercise, scheduled for April, will mobilize more than 1,500 participants deployed in 2 theaters of operation, including Cote d'Ivoire and, for the first time, Libya. However, beyond the technical and logistical aspects, this preparatory meeting has major strategic significance. The goal is to align doctrines, harmonize procedures, and design a common training scenario capable of responding to the evolving and increasing complex security threats on the continent. In this regard, Brigadier General Lopoe Tibebi, commander of Ivorian Special Operations, emphasized the fundamental purpose of this cooperation, which in his view is to strengthen trust between partners, improve the flow of information, and harmonize information processing procedures. By hosting this key phase of Flintlock 2026, Cote d'Ivoire confirms its position as a central player in regional security, in a context where the stability of the continent remains more crucial than ever.
Chris Fatisho with the details of that report from our Abidjan correspondent, Marcin Harrison Blair.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
And elsewhere in Guinea, a new development has occurred in the second phase of the trial related to the September 28, 2009 stadium massacre. On Monday, the Dixon Criminal Court overturned the committal orders against Colonels Jean-Louis Bogomu, Georges Olemu, and Chief Warrant Officer Thomas Tuaro, ordering their immediate release. While the defense welcomed this decision, describing it as a victory for the law and due process, the lawyers representing the civil parties criticized it as a setback for the victims and an obstacle to the pursuit of truth. Thankfully, Jaco completes the story.
In its ruling, the Dixon Court relied on Supreme Court rulings 08 and 09, as well as the decision of the Second Chamber of Investigating Court, which had declared the proceedings null and void. For the Defense Counsel, Mayor David Bevogui, this decision upholds the strict application of the rule of law and puts an end to proceedings deemed irregular.
After 4 years of arbitrary detention, our clients have been released unconditionally. This is a victory for the entire Guinean justice system over injustice. The trial is over.
However, the civil party strongly contested the decision. The victims' lawyers denounced an annulment which, according to them, undermines the pursuit of justice in this case. Attorney Bernard Sadisi Milimono is a member of the civil party.
The court failed to ensure a fair balance between the parties. It did not address the arguments presented by the plaintiffs, reportedly agreed with the arguments put forward by the prosecution, but this never happened.
This decision marks a turning point in this trial. The public prosecutor's office has not yet commented, but the proceedings suggested that it could appeal in the coming days.
A report from Colonel Ibrahim Abade in Conakry and voiced by Sankule Janko. Away from Guinea, the Gambia is preparing for the 2026 International Migration Review Forum. The event, scheduled to be held from May 5 to 8, will evaluate countries' progress under the Global Compact for safe, orderly and regular migration. At the moment, stakeholders are convening under the National Coordination Mechanism on Migration to review achievements, identify gaps and determine the next steps forward. From Banjul, Sang Donamendi explains the details.
Discussions are centered on assessing national progress, clarifying institutional responsibilities, and setting timelines for the 2026 Global Review. The meeting comes amid renewed public concern over irregular migration following a migrant boat tragedy off Nyomi in the North Bank region. Ambassador Lang Yabo, Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, describes the coordination mechanism as key to strengthening migration governance and reporting. He urges stakeholders to examine both progress and shortcomings carefully.
I encourage us all to use this meeting to review progress since our last session, identify policy and implementation gaps, clarify roles, responsibilities, and timelines in preparation for the 2026 IMRF, and reinforce our shared commitment to collaborative, transparent, and inclusive migration governance.
Additionally, Sib Gajaz, Chief of Mission of the International Organization for Migration in the Gambia, underscores the ongoing challenges, including irregular migration, limited legal pathways, socio-economic vulnerabilities, and climate-related mobility. She expresses the need for stronger data systems to guide policy decisions.
There are challenges that remain. Like many countries, the Gambia is navigating evolving pressures related to irregular migration and migrant protection, limited regular pathways, social-economic vulnerabilities, climate-related mobility, and the need for stronger data systems to guide evidence-based policy. We strongly encourage you to have an honest, balanced, and forward-looking assessment of what has been achieved and where we need to go next.
The meeting reaffirms the Gambia's commitment to improving migration management ahead of the 2026 International Migration Review Forum. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sangdana Mendy, reporting from Banjul.
We head now to Burkina Faso, where a fire destroyed over 100 tons of cotton plants. The incident occurred on Sunday in Douce village, located within the commune of Bagassi in the Bankui region. This disaster has resulted in significant losses for approximately 80 Burkinabe producers who rely on cotton production for their livelihoods. Usman Umar completes the story.
According to eyewitnesses, the fire began during a child's game near piles of cotton stored outdoors. The highly inflammable cotton quickly facilitated the rapid spread of the fire. Firefighters managed to bring the fire under control around 6 p.m. after several hours of battling the blaze. The Cotton Producers Group, CPG, reported that the alarm was raised as people were leaving Sunday church. The CPG, which represents 80 producers, recorded a total production of 147 tons this season, but a significant portion of this harvest has been affected by the fire. The losses are particularly heavy for the affected producers as cotton sales constitute their primary source of annual income. At this stage, the cause of the fire remains unknown and investigations have yet to be established to determine the exact circumstances of the incident. In Burkina Faso, seed cotton production is projected to reach 336,812 tons in the 2025-2026 season, marking a 15% increase compared to the previous season. This estimate comes from the Interprofessional Organization and was reported by the Regional Program for Integrated Cotton Production in Africa in its latest information bulletin released on January 9, 2026. This recent fire once again highlights the need for securing storage sites and improving the effectiveness of the cotton collection system in rural areas.
Usman Umar filed that report, and just before our recap, the Malian government's decision to prioritize locally produced goods is generating optimism among various national companies. Under this measure, each ministry will be required to allocate 100 million CFA francs in its 2026 budget for the purchase of local products. According to the authorities, the initiative could enhance national production and provide support to small and medium-sized enterprises. Abdullah Hassan tells us more in the following report.
Ramatu Sidibe is the founder of Rama Production, a company specializing in processing local fruits into natural beverages. Her unit focuses on adding value to local agricultural products and collaborates with several fruit suppliers. She says the government's decision represents a growth opportunity for processing companies.
This is a timely decision that encourages local productivity, especially for us young graduates who have completed training programs. It will have a positive impact. Above all, we can't continue producing the same quantities. If there is demand, we are forced to rely on others, and this creates jobs. Even the transportation and delivery services we are activating will be a win-win opportunity. Let's consume Malian means we accept our own challenge.
The same sentiment is echoed in the local products processing and distribution sector. Zaban Holding is another company committed to adding value to and marketing products from national production. Hamadun Togo, the company's operations manager, explains the corporation's ability.
All the raw materials we use come from rural areas. Producing locally means contributing to the development of these rural areas. The men and women who lack access to certain things like education and everything else. So, producing locally is truly about supporting all these people to get out of their predicaments.
For these stakeholders, this policy opens up new prospects for local production and growth in Mali. However, they are requesting government's support to meet demand and compete with imported products.
Aliu Cham's report from Bamako and voiced by Abdullahi Hassan. You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar and online at wadr.org. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegalese Prime Minister Sonko addresses National Assembly on trending issues including homosexuality. Liberian government dissolves paramilitary group over alleged threat to national security. Fire destroys more than 100 cotton plants in Burkina Faso, causing significant losses for producers. And still ahead, Nigeria battles nationwide Lassa fever outbreaks as infections rise among health workers. We do have the press review, a guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
You can listen to us live on wadr.org and follow live streamings on YouTube and Facebook. Now to some health news. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control says it is stepping up effort to contain Lassa fever outbreaks across the country. This comes as concerns grow over the rising number of infections among health workers. WDL's Abuja correspondent Yechin Sasichi reports.
Health authorities say while progress has been made in early detection and response, frontline workers remain vulnerable, particularly in facilities where protective gear and infection control systems are insufficient. Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Jide Idris, has described the rate of infection among health workers as alarming, noting that exposure in clinical settings continues to pose serious risks.
What we've discovered is that a lot of the health workers involved have very low index of suspicion when it comes to Lassa fever. You recollect a case, some of them are clinicians going to operate and not knowing that some of the cases they are operating on or dealing with have Lassa fever.
Dr. Idris says reducing infections will require sustained collaboration between federal and state governments, improved surveillance systems, and stronger community engagement.
More importantly, again, I think prevention is key right now. Focus now is for us, again, to link up with the states to build the necessary capabilities in terms of emergency preparedness and response. What we do at NCDC, they have to replicate in the states.
The latest Lassa fever situation report shows that between December 29 and February 15, Nigeria recorded 1,469 suspected cases and 318 confirmed cases of Lassa fever with 70 deaths. Public health experts say bridging gaps in protective equipment supply, training, and rapid response mechanisms will be critical to protecting healthcare workers and ensuring long-term disease control. For WADR, Yechenu Sasitu in Abuja.
This is the newspaper review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the newspaper review.
The newspaper review.
We head back now to Monrovia as we join Abraham Parker for the newspaper review.
This edition of Press Review features 3 local dailies. We begin with the New Dawn newspaper that goes with these stories. Fight over vehicle registration intensifies. MDMC moves Supreme Court to block LTM operations. Councillor Charlene Bronskin defends law school dues, calls out gender bias. And Phoebe Hospital staff staged a protest as negotiation hits a deadlock. But the next stop is the Analyst newspaper. As the Press Union of Liberia leaders warn of tensions, called for unified response on early military romance. Center demands a probe into Yekepa violence, says workers' protests raises governance concern. Our next and final stop is Front Page Africa newspaper that goes with these stories. Satan women, children sleeping open after demolition, plea for emergency shelter. We have nowhere to go. And police arrest 61-year-old woman accused of hacking 3 minors to death in District Number 9, Nema County. Well, that does it for this edition of Press Review from Liberia's capital, Monrovia. And it's back to you in studio.
Many thanks, Abraham Parker.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, in this segment of the news, we'll remain in Liberia, where the government has dissolved a group calling itself the National Fuller Security of Liberia, NFSL, following security concerns that emerged in recent weeks. The Minister of Justice announced the decision after determining that the group lacks the necessary legal authorization, including registration or licensing to operate as a security or paramilitary organization under the Liberian law. This action comes amid public outcry sparked by a live video and social media posts showing the group conducting training exercises and recruiting personnel. Our guest is Sam Sayong, a regional security expert from Liberia, who weighs in on the matter.
The issue is trending in Liberia, and as a result of that, the citizens are concerned. They've been raising alarm. You know, in the African proverb, they say when the snake bites you, you see the tail of a laser. You get frightened about it. You will run. There's no joke, no play, according to them, in the snake mouth. So this security situation where the alarm is being raised all across Liberia, that there is a fuller national security. For our own investigation, there are groups in Liberia, particularly in Monrovia. This group, they serve at the very masjid. Masjid is a mosque where Muslims pray. This group serve to these places during Friday prayer or during Ramadan nighttime prayer. So quite recently, one of the group members passed away according to our own investigation. And that member funeral was held at that fish market mosque. And there we saw alarm formation of this group standing out there, and some video and photograph were taken from that ceremony. It started making lead on the internet with the title there, the Fuller National Security or something. This is alarming. The name is scary.
Major concerns are around the illegal operation of said group and quote-unquote the tribal sentiment being placed on it. What do you make of such nomenclature when Liberia has about 16 tribes? What does it mean for the security of the state?
That is the alarming aspect of this whole conversation, having a group calling themselves a national security for a particular group. So the title, the nomenclature, is what creating the sentiment around the country. So you have a fuller national security. And not only that, the scary part for the citizen is they see them wearing these paramilitary attire. They got these khaki and other uniforms. That is the frightening part for the citizens. So if this group, because from our investigation, there's no document on file that there's any company, any organization registered in Liberia called the Fuller National Security. No documentation on here, nothing. So the citizen right to alarm is okay. This is how it tells you the citizens of Liberia are on the higher state of alert, digging from our past.
What threat does such a paramilitary group or tribal group pose to the national security of the state?
Syria, if it was a real group organized under the name of full national security, it poses a serious threat to the entire country, not only to all the security sector, because that would be something strange, having the organization named after a particular group as a national security. Under the laws of Liberia, no one individual, no tribes, no organization have the right to form their own security with the intent of providing protection for its people. The state has full responsibility to provide security for everyone that resides within our territorial confines.
In this context, the Liberian House of Representatives has summoned the Minister of Justice, the Inspector General of the Liberia National Police, and the National Security Agency of Liberia to appear before its plenary and explain the existence of this group, whether legal or illegal, and its implication on the national security of Liberia. What outcome do you think might come out of this summon by the House of Representatives?
Well, that is a great move by the representative because they have oversight, and that's some of their oversight responsibilities. But in my opinion, it's the right thing to do. So the government responsibility is to do fact check, find out who, why, when, and how. Once these questions are answered, apparently the issue will be put to rest. But they are investigating because I'm sure they're not just inviting the security bride to just tell them why they want to know whether there's some actuality in this thing. Because in security sector, if you do a threat analysis and look at your own vulnerability, if the threat level reduction require you taking certain action, certain measure that will reduce the threat level, of course you got to do that because when the threat level is high, it made the country very vulnerable.
Sam Sayong is a regional security expert from Liberia. In sport news, the West African Football Union Zone A, WAFU-A, has unveiled an ambitious sixth competition calendar for 2026, highlighted by the return of the historic Amilcar Cabral Cup, which will be hosted by Guinea from 15th to 30th of August. The announcement confirms a packed year of youth, women's and senior competitions across 6 countries in the sub-region, reinforcing WAFU's A's commitment to developing local football and strengthening regional integration. Once the flagship competition in West African football, the tournament had been dormant for several years. Its reinstatement is seen as a major step in revitalizing competition for locally based players. And that's it on this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudiju for the technical support. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms: X, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook at WADR English. I am Imo Edit. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia. We also appreciate our listeners in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM, Lofa County,
Radio Kagama 94.5 FM, Niba County, DCN Radio 91.3 FM, Riverside County, Wakat FM Radio, Banga, Liberia, Radio Baf FM 91.3 Sierra Leone in Nigeria, and Love 104.5 FM Abuja.
For you listening via Radio Pad 95.1 Damango, Savannah region, and on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi, Ghana, we say a big thank you. Remember, West Africa Democracy Radio is all about you, your views,